Hey everyone, welcome back. It's your family doctor. And I am so glad you decided to spend some time with me today. Over the past few weeks, I've been hearing the same thing from so many of my patients, from my neighbors, even from my own family members. The weather has been all over the place. One day it's warm, the next day it's cold, then it's rainy, then it's dry, and it feels like everyone around us is coughing, sneezing, dealing with a scratchy throat, or just fighting off one bug after another. But even beyond that, I'm hearing something else. People tell me, doctor, I haven't really eaten that much, but my stomach feels so heavy and bloated, like there's a balloon inside me. Or they say, I lie down at night and I just can't fall asleep. I toss and turn, my mouth feels dry, my mind is racing, and I feel so restless and irritated. Now, here's what I want you to consider. These small annoyances, the bloating, the poor sleep, the low energy, the brain fog, the irritability, they might seem like separate problems, but in my experience, they very often trace back to one single root issue, and that issue is something we all do every single day, multiple times a day. We're talking about eating, but not just what you eat. I'm talking about how you eat, the rhythm, the timing, the breaks you give, or more importantly, the breaks you don't give, your body today. I want to dive deep into this topic. It's a topic that so many of my patients have been confused about for years, and honestly, it's a topic where well-meaning advice has often led people down the wrong path. So let's clear it all up together. I want to start with a story. This is a real case from my practice, and I still think about it often because it fundamentally changed the way I counsel my patients about food and digestion. About 2 years ago, a man in his mid-50s came to see me. Let's call him Mr. Wang. That's not his real name, of course, but it helps me tell the story. On paper, this man had everything you could possibly want. He was a highly successful businessman, well known in his industry, with a reputation for being sharp, decisive, and effective. His net worth was substantial. He lived in a beautiful home, drove nice cars, and had a full staff that included a driver, a personal assistant, housekeepers, and even multiple nannies. From the outside looking in, you would say, this guy has it all. He's living the American dream or close to it. But when he walked, or rather when he was helped into my office, he looked nothing like his success. He was being supported on both sides, his driver on his left arm and his assistant on his right. His legs simply weren't working properly. They felt heavy and useless, like they weren't responding to his brain's commands. He was basically being carried in, and I could see how much effort it took for him just to stay upright. The very first thing I noticed was his face. And I don't mean his expression, I mean his complexion. It wasn't just pale, it was gray. Not like a healthy person who hasn't seen the sun. I'm talking about an ashen, dull, lifeless color, like the leftover ash from a fire that's gone cold. There was no warmth, no glow, no vitality in his skin. It looked dry and withered. His eyes were another giveaway. They were unfocused, almost like he wasn't really present in the room, like his soul was somewhere else. His lips had a purplish tint to them, not the healthy pink or red you'd expect, and when he spoke, his voice was so faint, so thin, that I literally had to lean in close and cup my ear just to catch what he was saying. He sat down slowly with help and took a long, shaky breath. And before he could even tell me what brought him in, his eyes filled with tears. This grown man, this big, successful businessman, started crying right there in my exam room. And then he said something that I have never forgotten. He looked at me and said, Doctor, I did this to myself. I ruined my own health. I have no one to blame but me. That moment hit me hard. Not because I was surprised. I've seen a lot of patients with regrets, but because of the depth of his conviction. He genuinely believed he had destroyed his own body, and he didn't know how to fix it. I took a breath, handed him a tissue, and said, tell me everything, start from the beginning. Walk me through what happened, and he did. He told me that about 3 years earlier during a routine annual physical, had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. His blood sugar levels were consistently elevated, and his ASI was well above where it should be. On top of that, his doctor had also found evidence of a mild stomach ulcer, not severe, not bleeding, but definitely some erosion in his stomach lining that was causing him occasional discomfort. So his doctors, and I want to be clear here, this wasn't just one person, this was a team, his primary care physician, a registered dietitian, a nutritionist, and even a well-known health consultant had hired privately. They all sat down with him and gave him the same advice. They said, Mr. Wang, your pancreas is struggling, your insulin production isn't what it used to be, and your stomach lining is delicate right now. We have a two-part problem. We need to keep your blood sugar from spiking, and we need to keep your stomach acid from irritating that ulcer. The solution is clear. You need to eat small, frequent meals about 7 times a day. That way, your blood sugar never goes too high or too low, and your stomach never gets too empty, which would let the acid damage the lining, and never gets too full, which would stretch the ulcer. This is the safest, most scientific approach. Now, Mr. Wang was a businessman. He was used to taking orders and executing them perfectly. He was disciplined, detail-oriented, and he believed in following expert advice. So he took that recommendation like it was a sacred commandment. He wrote it down, he made a schedule, he followed it to the letter without any deviation. Let me give you a picture of what his day looked like, because I think details sound very familiar to a lot of you. He would wake up at 6:30 in the morning, and the very first thing he'd do was eat a small bowl of oatmeal. Not a big bowl, a small one, plain with a little water or skim milk. He did this because Head heard oatmeal was good for lowering cholesterol, and he wanted to be proactive about his heart health too. At 9 a.m., right as he arrived at his office, his assistant would bring him exactly half an apple, not a whole apple, just half, along with 3 walnuts. This was supposedly to give him vitamins and healthy fats to keep his brain sharp for the morning meetings. At 11 a.m., he would eat 2 whole grain crackers, not 4, not a handful too. This was to prevent his blood sugar from dropping too low before lunch. Because Head been told that low blood sugar could make him shaky and confused, at 12:30 p.m. Head have his healthy lunch. And I put that in quotes because it was specifically designed to be low calorie, low fat, and very small, basically a few slices of boiled chicken breast, a tiny handful of steamed broccoli or green beans, and maybe a quarter cup of brown rice. It was such a small portion that he often joked it looked like bird food. At 3 p.m., another snack, a handful of almonds or walnuts with a small glass of low-fat milk. This was to get him through the afternoon slump without eating anything bad. At 5:30 p.m., Head have dinner, again small, light, carefully measured, maybe a piece of grilled fish with a side salad, no dressing. And then at 8:30 p.m., right before he went to bed, Head have his final meal of the day, a small glass of warm milk and 1 slice of whole wheat bread. This was specifically recommended to prevent his blood sugar from crashing in the middle of the night because Head been told that nighttime hypoglycemia could be dangerous. Now, I want you to pause and think about that schedule. It sounds precise, doesn't it? It sounds scientific. It sounds like something you'd see in a wellness magazine or a health book. Everything is portion controlled. Everything is healthy. Everything is timed perfectly. On paper, he was doing everything right. But here's the reality of what actually happened to his body. The first month, he felt okay, not great, but okay, his blood sugar numbers looked a little smoother, a little less spiky. And he thought to himself, this is working. The doctors were right. I just need to stick with it. But by the third month, things started to change. He began to feel bloated after almost every meal. Not the I ate too much kind of bloat, but something deeper, more uncomfortable. It felt like he had a heavy, hard rock sitting in his stomach, just sitting there, not moving, not digesting, just taking up space and making him miserable. He went back to his doctor and described the sensation. The doctor said, your digestive system is probably just weak right now. You need to eat softer foods and you need to chew more thoroughly. So he did. He started blending his meals into a paste, and he forced himself to chew each bite exactly 50 times before swallowing. By the 6th month, the problems got worse. Much worse. He started feeling a deep, heavy fatigue in his limbs. Not just I'm tired, but a profound, leaden weight that made even simple movements feel exhausting. He told me that every single morning when he woke up, his legs felt like they were filled with wet sand or lead. He had to hold onto the wall, the furniture, anything he could reach just to shuffle his way to the bathroom. His brain was in a similar fog. He described it as having wet cotton stuffed inside his skull. Everything felt muffled, slow, distant. During business meetings, his subordinates would give presentations, and he couldn't follow along. He couldn't focus, couldn't make decisions, couldn't remember details. Even reading a simple document that his assistant handed him became a struggle. His reaction time slowed down dramatically, and he started making mistakes in his work, things that had never happened before in his career. By the end of the first year, things had become genuinely terrifying. His blood sugar was no longer stable. It was wildly erratic, like a roller coaster that had come off its tracks. After meals, his glucose would shoot up like a rocket, soaring to dangerously high levels. Then before meals, it would crash down like a free fall, leaving him shaky, sweaty, dizzy, and with a pounding heart. His stomach started cramping, not sharp, stabbing pains, but a dull, gnawing ache that would come and go unpredictably, often waking him up in the middle of the night, and his digestion, especially his bowel movements, was a complete mess. Everything he ate seemed to come out loose, sticky, and incomplete. He'd go to the bathroom 4 or 5 times a day, and every single time he felt like he wasn't finished. There was still something there, still bloating, still discomfort. No matter how many times he went, he never felt clean or empty. That's when he finally came to see me. When I examined him, the first thing I did was take his pulse. In traditional medicine, we read the pulse not just for heart rate, but for quality, depth, and rhythm. His pulse was incredibly weak. I could barely feel it. It was thin, faint, and deep, like a tiny thread that you could easily miss if you weren't paying close attention. That's a classic sign of what we'd call a depletion of the body's core vital energy. It told me that his organs, especially his digestive organs, were exhausted, overworked, and undernourished. Then I asked him to stick out his tongue because in my practice, the tongue gives me a wealth of information. And what I saw was striking. His tongue was swollen, much larger than normal, and pale, almost white. All around the edges, there were deep scalloped indentations, like teeth marks pressed into soft dough. The coating on his tongue was thick, greasy, and white, like a layer of wet flour or cottage cheese. And right down the middle, there was a deep crack that ran from the tip to the back. That combination, a swollen, pale, coated tongue with a crack, is a very strong sign of digestive weakness and chronic internal dampness. I sat back, took a breath, and looked him in the eye. I said, "Mr. Wang, let me be direct with you. You do not have a terminal illness. You don't have some mysterious new disease. What you have is a digestive system that has been pushed to the point of collapse by following the wrong dietary advice. You have been overworking your stomach and intestines, and they are begging for a break." He looked absolutely shocked. He said, "But doctor, I was trying to protect my stomach. I didn't want to overload it. I was following the advice of my doctors, my nutritionist, everyone. How could that be wrong?" And I said to him, "I understand why you think that, and I'm not blaming you. But here's the truth. What you've been doing isn't reducing your digestive system's workload. It's actually increasing it. You haven't been giving your stomach rest. You've been keeping it on duty 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're not feeding it well. You're overworking it." Now, let me explain this in a way that I think will make it crystal clear. I use this metaphor with all my patients, and it helps them understand what's actually going on inside their bodies. Imagine that you own a factory. It's a successful factory, and you have a team of hardworking, loyal employees. These employees are your digestive system, your stomach, your small intestine, your pancreas, your liver, all working together to process raw materials and turn them into useful products. Now, if you run your factory like this, your employees work a solid morning shift, say 4 or 5 hours, and then they get a proper lunch break. Not a rush break, but a real break where they can sit down, eat a decent meal, and even take a short nap to recharge. Then they work the afternoon shift, and when the day is done, they go home, lock the doors, and the factory shuts down for the night. The employees are happy, the equipment gets regular maintenance, the floors get swept, the machines get oiled, and the factory runs smoothly for years. That's a healthy rhythm. But then a consultant comes in, a well-meaning but misguided consultant, and says, "We need to maximize efficiency. We can't afford to shut down. Let's run this factory 24 hours a day, but in smaller batches. Instead of 2 or 3 big production runs, we'll have a new shipment of raw materials arriving every hour and a half, small batches, continuous operation." So now, what happens? The employees never get a real break. They're always unloading, always processing, always working. They never have time to clean the machines, never have time to sweep the floor, never have time to take out the garbage. The machines overheat, the trash piles up in the corners, the grease on the floor gets thicker and thicker, and the whole place starts to stink. The employees are exhausted, the equipment is breaking down, and eventually the whole factory collapses. That is exactly what was happening inside Mr. Wang's digestive system. He was running his factory, his gut 24/7, with tiny batches of raw material arriving constantly, and his cleaning crew never got a chance to do their job. Now, I want to talk about something called the migrating motor complex, or MMC. This is a physiological reality, and it's one of the most important things you'll ever learn about your gut. The MMC is like your body's professional cleaning crew, but not just any cleaning crew. These are like a highly trained SWAT team of cleaners that come in to do a deep, thorough scrub of your digestive tract. Here's how it works after you finish a meal. Your stomach and small intestine spend about 2 to 3 hours digesting the food, breaking it down, absorbing nutrients, and moving the remaining material along. Once that process is complete, once your stomach and small intestine are empty, your gut nervous system detects that there's no more food coming in. It says, "All clear." no new deliveries, time to clean. At that point, your body releases a hormone called motilin. That hormone triggers a powerful wave of muscle contractions that starts at the lower end of your stomach and sweeps all the way down through your small intestine. This wave is strong, much stronger than the gentle rhythmic contractions that happen during digestion. It's like a pressure washer, a plow, and a giant broom all rolled into one. What does this wave do? It pushes everything forward. Leftover food particles that got stuck in the tiny folds of your intestinal lining shed. Dead cells from your intestinal wall that need to be cleared out. Bacteria that are growing where they shouldn't be, trying to ferment and multiply. The MMC sweeps all of that debris down into your large intestine where it gets packaged up and eventually eliminated. It's your body's built-in deep cleaning mechanism. And it happens every 2 to 3 hours when you're in a truly fasting state. But here's the critical point, and I really want you to remember this because it changes everything. The MMC cleaning cycle has one absolutely non-negotiable requirement. It only happens when you are in a state of true fasting, not I haven't eaten in 20 minutes, not I'm a little hungry. I mean, absolute fasting. What does absolute fasting mean? It means there cannot be any calories entering your stomach. No food, no juice, no sweetened coffee or tea, no milk, no creamer, no protein shake, not even a single grape, a single cracker, or a sip of fruit juice. Because the very moment any caloric substance touches your stomach lining, your brain and your gut get an immediate signal. It says, food is here, stop cleaning, start digesting, and the MMC shuts down instantly. The cleaning crew drops their mops and runs to the kitchen to start cooking. Now, do you see what was happening to Mr. Wong? He was eating something every hour and a half to 2 hours, day in and day out, so his body would finish digesting one small meal, and the MMC cleaning crew would just be starting to gear up, ready to go to work, and then crunch, head take a bite of apple, stop cleaning, start digesting. The crew goes back to the kitchen. 2 hours later, they try again, crunch 2 crackers, stop cleaning, start digesting. This happens 7 times a day, 365 days a year, for 3 full years. That's over 1,000 days, more than 1,000 days, during which his digestive system never ever completed a single full cleaning cycle. The cleaning crew was always on standby, always ready, but always interrupted. Let me give you another metaphor that I think every American can relate to. Think about your kitchen at home. You cook breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe snacks for the kids. Now imagine that you never ever wash your pans. You never wipe down the counters. You never sweep the floor, you never take out the trash, you never scrub the sink, not for a week, not for a month. For 3 years, what would your kitchen look like? Grease caked on the stove, layers deep, food scraps rotting in the garbage can, attracting bugs, mold growing in the corners. The smell would be unbearable. Would you want to cook in that kitchen? Would you want to eat food that came out of it? Absolutely not. That is exactly what was happening inside Mr. Wang's gut. All that undigested, fermented, rotting food debris was sitting in his small intestine, becoming a breeding ground for harmful bacteria. In modern medical terms, this condition has a specific name. It's called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Those bacteria ferment the leftover food and produce gas, hydrogen, methane, and other compounds. That's why Mr. Wang was so bloated. His belly wasn't full of healthy food. It was full of gas like a giant swamp or a biogas digester. And as those bacteria multiplied, they released toxins that got absorbed through his intestinal wall into his bloodstream. Now, in traditional medicine, we talk about the spleen having a function called transportation and transformation. It's responsible for taking the nutrients from your food and delivering them to every cell in your body. But in Mr. Wang's case, his system wasn't transporting nutrients anymore. It was transporting toxins. Those toxins went up to his brain and clouded his thinking. That's the brain fog, the poor concentration, the memory problems, the inability to focus during meetings. Those toxins went to his limbs and blocked the normal flow of energy and blood. That's why his legs felt so heavy, so weak, like they were filled with lead. And those toxins settled in his skin. That's why his complexion turned gray and dull, making him look years older than he actually was. That's the hidden cost of the small frequent meals approach. It's not nourishing your body, it's slowly turning your digestive system into a trash compactor, and then letting that trash leak into the rest of your system. Let's go even deeper because I want you to understand this from another angle. In traditional medicine, we talk a lot about the balance of yin and yang. Everything in the body has this rhythm, this cycle of activity and rest. Digestion is an active, energy consuming process. It generates heat, it burns fuel, it requires a lot of effort from your body. That's yang, active, bright, consuming. Rest and repair, on the other hand, are quiet, restorative, and rebuilding. That's yin, passive, nourishing. Regenerative. When you eat, you're stepping on the gas pedal. When you fast, you're pulling into the service station to refuel, change the oil, and let the engine cool down. Small, frequent meals, as commonly practiced, creates a situation where you have only yang, constant activity, constant digestion, constant burning, and very little yin. You're always consuming, never repairing. You're like a race car driver who floors the accelerator on the highway, engine screaming in the red zone, temperature gauge climbing, but you never pull into a rest stop. You never let the engine cool down. You never change the oil. What happens to that car? It runs out of gas. You feel tired, weak, your voice gets soft, your energy plummets. Then the engine starts overheating. You feel restless, irritable, hot, with dry mouth, burning palms and feet, and you can't sleep at night. And finally, the engine seizes up completely and dies. That weak, thready, barely there pulse I found on Mr. Wang. That was his body's engine, warning light flashing red. That was his life force running dangerously low. Now let's talk about blood sugar, because this is another area where the small frequent meals idea has caused a lot of confusion and harm. I know many of you have been told that eating small meals throughout the day is the best way to keep your blood sugar stable, and I understand why that seems logical. If you eat a little bit all the time, your blood sugar never spikes too high after any single meal. The numbers on your glucose monitor look nice and flat, and you think, great, my blood sugar is under control. But here's the problem that nobody tells you about. Every single time you eat, no matter how small the meal, your pancreas releases insulin. Insulin is a hormone that acts like a key. It unlocks your cells so that sugar from your bloodstream can enter and be used for energy. But if you're eating 7 or 8 times a day, your blood is swimming in insulin from morning to night. Your cells are constantly being bombarded with insulin signals, constantly having those locks jiggled. Over time, your cells get tired of it. They start to ignore the knocking. The locks get rusty, the keys don't fit as well anymore, and it takes more and more insulin to get the same job done. That's called insulin resistance. And it is the single most important driver behind type diabetes. It's the root of the problem. The irony is absolutely tragic. By trying to stabilize your blood sugar with constant eating, you're actually driving your insulin levels higher and higher, making your cells more and more resistant and pushing yourself further down the path toward worsening diabetes. The only real way to reverse insulin resistance is to give your pancreas a break. Let insulin levels come down. Give your cells time to reset their sensitivity. And the only way to do that is to give your body long stretches of true fasting. Stretches where no food is coming in, no insulin is being released, and your cells can take a deep breath and repair themselves. Now, I'm not telling you all of this to scare you. I know that some of you might be feeling anxious right now, thinking, oh no, I've been doing this all wrong. Have I damaged myself? Please don't panic. The human body is remarkably resilient. It has an incredible capacity to heal and recover when you give it the right conditions. But I do want you to understand the science, the physiology, and the why behind the changes I'm going to recommend. When you understand how your body really works, you're much more likely to make sustainable, lasting changes. So let's get practical. What do we do? How do we fix this? I'm going to share with you a practical step-by-step approach that I've developed over years of clinical practice. I call it the gut rhythm repair method. It costs absolutely nothing. No supplements, no fancy meal delivery services, no expensive gym memberships, no special shakes or powders. All it takes is a little awareness, a little commitment, and a willingness to change your daily eating schedule. The method is based on 2 incredibly simple but powerful principles. Give your digestive system time to work and give it time to rest. We're going to manage your eating schedule the way a smart factory manager runs a plant, with clearly defined work shifts, regular breaks, and scheduled maintenance windows. Let's walk through the schedule hour by hour, meal by meal. I'd encourage you to get a piece of paper and a pen right now and write this down. Or take a screenshot on your phone, put it on your refrigerator, put it on your desk at work, make it visible, because these small reminders really do help. Phase 1, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Su, the startup phase. In traditional medicine, this is the time of the stomach. The sun has risen. Your body's active energy, what we call yang energy, is starting to wake up and rise, and your stomach is fresh, rested, and ready to work. This is the optimal time to eat breakfast, and you should eat it like a king. Now, let's be clear about what eat like a king actually means. It does not mean a giant, greasy feast with bacon, sausage, fried potatoes, and pancakes swimming in syrup. That's not eating like a king, that's eating like a glutton, and it will overwhelm your digestive system first thing in the morning. What eat like a king means is that this meal is the most important, the most substantial, and the most nourishing meal of your day. It should be warm, satisfying, and balanced. Here's a rule that I give to all my patients, and I really want you to remember it. Your breakfast must be warm. Your stomach loves warmth. It craves warmth, especially in the morning when your metabolic fire, your digestive flame is just getting started. Think of that flame like a small candle. It's small, it's fragile, and it needs to be gently nurtured so it can grow. If you pour a glass of cold milk, a cold smoothie, or a cold yogurt parfait on that little flame, what happens? You put the fire out, the flame sputters and dies, and your digestion never really gets going for the rest of the day. So choose warm foods, a bowl of hearty oatmeal or cream of wheat, a warm congee or rice porridge, a toasted whole grain bagel or English muffin with a little butter or nut butter, a couple of scrambled eggs with some sauteed vegetables, a bowl of warm miso soup. If you can add a little freshly grated ginger to your warm water or tea, that's wonderful. Because ginger gently stimulates your digestive fire without overwhelming it. In the traditional wisdom, there is a saying, ginger in the morning is better than ginseng. It warms you up from the inside and gets your whole system moving. So phase one is simple, eat a warm, satisfying breakfast sometime between 7 and 9 a.m. Don't rush it. Sit down, chew slowly, and enjoy it. Phase 2, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. the first fasting window. Let's say you finish your breakfast around 8 a.m. From that moment until lunch, about 4 to 5 hours later, you give your digestive system a complete, uninterrupted break. During this window, nothing goes into your mouth except plain warm water. No crackers, no fruit, no sweetened coffee or tea, no milk or cream, no juice, no protein shakes, nothing with any calories whatsoever. Why is this so important? Because it takes about 2 hours for your stomach to completely empty that breakfast. Once the stomach is empty, your MMC cleaning crew needs another 2 to 3 hours to do its full sweep from the stomach all the way down through the small intestine. If you eat anything during that window, even a single bite, you stop the cleaning crew in its tracks, they drop their mops, put away their pressure washers, and run back to the kitchen. The garbage stays where it is, the debris continues to rot and ferment, so you need to be patient and let them work. Now, I know what happens around 10:30 or 11 a.m. You might start to feel hungry, your stomach might start growling, and when you hear that growl, I want you to smile. I want you to feel good about it because that growling is not an emergency alarm. It's not your body screaming for help. That growl is the sound of your cleaning crew hard at work. That's the sound of your gut sweeping out the garbage, scrubbing the walls, and preparing for the next meal. Let it work. Don't interrupt it. If you feel a little bit of discomfort, remind yourself, this is the sound of healing. This is the sound of detoxification. This is the sound of your body doing exactly what it was designed to do. Phase 3, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. FY, the refuel phase. This time period from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is traditionally associated with the heart. And in traditional medicine, the heart's fire can actually support and strengthen the digestive fire. So this is your next major eating window. Lunch, your lunch should be a satisfying, balanced, substantial meal. Think of it as your main fuel for the second half of the day. You want to include good carbohydrates, rice, whole grains, potatoes, or bread. You want good protein, chicken, fish, eggs, beans, or tofu. And you want plenty of vegetables, cooked or raw, with a little healthy fat, olive oil, avocado, nuts, or seeds. This meal should be bigger than your breakfast because it has to power you through the entire afternoon and early evening. If you prefer a light soup for lunch, that's okay. But I often recommend a slightly heavier meal here because a more substantial lunch will help you maintain stable blood sugar and energy levels throughout the afternoon, making it much easier to get through the next fasting window without cravings. Phase 4, 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. Southern tea. The second fasting window, this is the longest stretch of the day, about 5 to 6 hours. And honestly, this is the one that tests your willpower the most. From the time you finish lunch until dinner, you fast again. No snacks. No sugary drinks, no frappuccinos from Starbucks, no office donuts, no vending machine chocolate bars, just water. I know exactly what happens around 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's when the dreaded afternoon slump hits. Your blood sugar naturally dips a little. Your energy flags and your brain starts looking for a quick pick-me-up. And then just at that moment, your coworker walks by with a box of pastries, or someone from the next cubicle says, "Hey, we're ordering lattes, you want one?" Or you walk past the break room and see a plate of leftover cookies from the morning meeting. This is the critical moment. This is where the battle is won or lost. If you give in and eat that cookie, drink that sweet latte, or grab a handful of pretzels, you've just reset the clock. The cleaning crew stops in its tracks. The garbage stays where it is, and you've lost all the progress you made during the morning fasting window. So what do you do if that hungry, shaky, craving feeling gets really strong? I have two quick, practical tricks that I give to all my patients. First, have a warm glass of water with just a tiny pinch of high quality salt, sea salt, Himalayan salt, or kosher salt, not enough to make it taste salty. Just enough to replace a little electrolytes. This often calms the hunger pangs and takes the edge off that shaky, lightheaded feeling. It works because your body sometimes misinterprets electrolyte fluctuations as hunger or low blood sugar. A little salt can stabilize your nervous system and buy you time. Second, stand up and move your body. Take 10 deep, slow, conscious breaths, or do 20 bodyweight squats, or walk up and down a flight of stairs for 2 minutes, or do a few standing stretches. Why does this work? Because physical movement tells your liver to release stored glycogen into your bloodstream, giving you a quick energy boost. It also encourages your body to shift from burning sugar to burning fat for fuel. You have energy, it's just locked away in your fat stores. Movement is the key that opens that lock phase 5. 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. 7T, the light dinner phase. This time period is associated with the kidneys in traditional medicine, and it's a time for winding down, for shifting from activity to rest. Your dinner should reflect that transition. I tell my patients, eat dinner like a beggar. That doesn't mean starve yourself. It means keep it simple, keep it small, and keep it light. A bowl of vegetable soup, a small portion of congee or rice porridge, some steamed greens with a little drizzle of olive oil, maybe a small piece of fish or tofu, no heavy meats, no big portions. No spicy or oily or fried foods, no massive plates of pasta or huge steaks. Why? Because the sun is going down and your body is naturally starting to shift into rest and repair mode. Your metabolism slows down in the evening. Your digestive fire, which was strong in the morning and at noon, is starting to fade. If you eat a big, heavy dinner, you're essentially throwing a large log onto a fire that's supposed to be dying down. Your body has to work extremely hard to digest that meal, and that hard work keeps you awake, keeps your internal temperature elevated, raises your heart rate, and interferes with your sleep quality. It also converts those excess calories into stored fat much more easily at night because your metabolism is slower. So keep dinner small, keep it simple. Eat early enough that you have at least a few hours between your last bite and your bedtime, phase 6, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. So the super repair window. This is the longest fasting stretch of the entire day, about 12 hours. And this is where the real magic happens. From after dinner until breakfast the next morning, you have a complete uninterrupted fasting period. No food, no snacks, no fruit, no late night milk, no herbal tea with honey. No, just a little bite of whatever's in the fridge, just plain water. During this 12-hour window, your body can focus on deep restorative work. In traditional medicine, we say that when you lie down to sleep, your blood returns to your liver to be cleansed, filtered, and stored. And your kidneys collect and store the deep essence that supports your vitality, your longevity, and your overall health. If you eat during this time, if you have a midnight snack, or even a glass of milk or a piece of fruit before bed, all that energy, all that blood flow, all that repair capacity gets diverted away from your liver and kidneys and sent to your stomach to digest food. Your liver loses its chance to do its nightly detoxification work. Your kidneys lose their chance to restore your vital reserves. Over time, that leads to poor sleep quality, dark circles under your eyes, puffy eyelids, memory problems, brain fog, hormonal imbalances, and accelerated aging. So please, no late night eating, no midnight trips to the refrigerator. Give your body the gift of a long, uninterrupted overnight fast. Your liver and kidneys will thank you, and you'll wake up feeling more refreshed and clear-headed. Now, I know that some of you are probably sitting there with a lot of questions. These are the 3 most common concerns I hear from my patients, and I want to address each one in detail. Question 1, doctor, I have an ulcer. My gastroenterologist told me I need to eat frequently to keep acid from damaging my stomach lining. Want fasting make my ulcer worse? This is an excellent question, and it's one I hear all the time. I completely understand why you're concerned. Here's the truth. Your stomach lining has an extraordinary, almost miraculous ability to repair itself, but it can only do that when the stomach is at rest. Think about it this way. If you get a small cut on your hand and you keep rubbing that cut, scraping it, exposing it to irritants all day long, it will never heal. Your stomach is exactly the same. It needs breaks from the work of digestion so that its cells can regenerate and repair the lining. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do a 24-hour fast if your ulcer is actively painful or bleeding. I want you to be smart and safe, but if you're in an acute phase, here's a gentle, traditional approach that has helped many of my patients. Try what we call rice oil. Cook a pot of plain rice congee. That's a lot of water with rice cooked slowly until the rice breaks down and the liquid becomes thick and creamy. Let it sit for a few minutes and you'll see a thick, starchy, gelatinous layer form on the top. That's the rice oil before your meal. Take a small spoonful of that rice oil and swallow it slowly. It coats the stomach lining like a gentle protective film, soothing the irritation and reducing the direct acid contact. Over time, as you start spacing your meals out and giving your stomach real breaks, the lining gets the rest it needs to heal properly. Many of my patients with chronic ulcers have found that within weeks they can go 2 or 3 hours between meals without the same level of pain or discomfort. The key is patience and consistency. Question 2, doctor. I have diabetes. I've been told my whole life that I need to eat frequently to prevent low blood sugar. Isn't fasting dangerous for me? This is such an important question, and I'm grateful you're asking it because it shows you're being careful and thoughtful. First and foremost, let me give you the standard medical disclaimer. If you're on insulin or certain oral diabetes medications like sulfonylureas, you absolutely must talk to your prescribing doctor before making any significant changes to your eating schedule. I cannot stress that enough. Everyone's medication regimen is different, and your doctor needs to help you adjust safely. That said, let's look at the physiology. If your lunch meal is balanced, if it includes a good source of complex carbohydrates, quality protein, and healthy fats, it will sustain you for 4 to 5 hours without a crash. The problem with low blood sugar episodes often comes when people eat meals that are predominantly refined. High glycemic carbohydrates, white bread, white rice, sugary drinks, pastries, those foods spike your blood sugar rapidly and then drop it just as sharply, like a roller coaster. But when your meals are balanced and include protein and fat, the sugar enters your bloodstream more slowly and steadily, and your blood sugar stays much more stable over time. It's also really important to understand that what many people call low blood sugar, the shakiness, the irritability, the hunger pangs, the lightheadedness, is often not actually a dangerously low glucose level. It's what I call a false low. It's your body reacting to the absence of those frequent sugar spikes that it's become accustomed to. It's like a mild withdrawal symptom. Your body is essentially saying, hey, where's my usual sugar hit? If you push through those first 3 to 5 days, your body adapts beautifully. It starts to become more efficient at using stored fat for energy, and those shaky, anxious episodes become much less frequent and much less severe. If you're genuinely worried, I recommend keeping a glucose monitor handy and checking your levels when you feel symptomatic. For most of my patients with type diabetes who aren't on insulin, once they transition to this rhythm, they actually find that their blood sugar becomes more stable overall, not less, because they're no longer riding the roller coaster of constant eating and constant insulin release. Question 3, doctor. I've been trying to gain weight for a long time. I want to build muscle and look stronger. I heard that eating small, frequent meals helps with absorption, so I've been doing that, but it hasn't worked. What am I doing wrong? This is a fantastic question, and it gets to the heart of a major misunderstanding about nutrition. In traditional medicine, we have a principle that the spleen, which in our framework is the central organ of digestion and absorption, controls the muscles. What that means in plain English is that building muscle isn't just about how much protein you shovel into your mouth. It's about how well your digestive system can take that protein and the other nutrients you eat and actually turn them into usable building blocks for your body. If your digestive system is exhausted from constant work, from digesting food every hour and a half, never getting a break, it doesn't absorb nutrients efficiently. The food passes through without being fully utilized, or worse, it sits around and ferments, becoming a burden instead of a benefit. So despite eating a lot of calories, your body isn't getting the materials it needs to build muscle. But when you give your digestive system proper rest, when you consolidate your eating into 3 balanced meals with long fasting windows in between, its ability to absorb and transform food increases dramatically. That's when a moderate amount of good, balanced food gives you far more energy and building material than 3 times that amount eaten when your system is tired and overworked. I've seen patients who stopped snacking and started eating 3 solid meals a day gain healthy muscle mass and strength faster than ever before. So if your goal is to build muscle, focus not just on eating more, but on eating with better rhythm and better rest. That's the key. Now, I want to bring it all together for you. Your body is not a machine that needs fuel pumped into it every hour. It's a living, intelligent, self-regulating system that needs both nourishment and rest, both activity and recovery, both yang and yin. That rhythm of eating and fasting, of work and repair, is not something we invented. It's built into our biology, it's written into our genes. Our ancestors lived that way for millions of years. But in today's modern, convenience-driven, 24-hour food environment, we've been told to override that rhythm, and it's making us sick, tired, bloated, and inflamed. The good news is you can turn it around. You have the power to change this, starting today, starting with your next meal. You can give your digestive system the breaks it's been asking for. And when you do, you'll notice something remarkable. You'll have more energy, better focus, deeper sleep, less bloating, a clearer complexion, a more stable mood, more consistent weight. You'll feel lighter, brighter, and more alive. Not because you bought a miracle product or signed up for an expensive program, but because you started working with your body, not against it. This is not a fad diet. This is not a quick fix. This is a return to how your body was designed to function. It's about respect. It's about rhythm. It's about giving your hardworking digestive system the rest and repair time it so desperately needs. I want you to know that I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to tell you you've been bad or wrong. You've been following the advice you were given, advice that was well-intentioned, but in my professional opinion, deeply flawed. What I'm offering today is a different perspective, backed by both ancient wisdom and modern physiology. Take what works for you, adapt it to your own schedule, be patient with yourself as you transition. And if you know someone who could benefit from this, a friend, a family member, a coworker who's always struggling with bloating or brain fog or poor sleep, please share this video with them. The more we understand our bodies, the better choices we make, and the better choices we make, the healthier we become. Now, because I want to be absolutely clear and responsible, this content is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not personalized medical advice. It doesn't take the place of a proper consultation with your own healthcare provider. Every person is unique. Every body responds differently. If you have chronic conditions, if you're on medications, if you're pregnant, nursing, or have any other special health circumstances, please talk to your primary care doctor before making any significant changes to your eating patterns. They know your full medical history, and they can help you adapt this approach safely for your specific situation. But for the vast majority of my patients, this rhythm, 3 solid meals, no snacking in between, and a long, restful overnight fast, is one of the most powerful, effective, and completely free tools I've ever recommended for improving digestive health, metabolic health, and overall well-being. It's not about deprivation. It's not about willpower alone. It's about giving your body the time it needs to clean, repair, restore, and thrive. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know your time is valuable, and I'm truly honored that you chose to spend it here. If this made sense to you, if you learned something new, if you're inspired to give this a try, drop a comment below and let me know. I read as many comments as I can, and I always love hearing from you. And if you're not already subscribed, consider joining our community. We talk about real health issues here. No gimmicks, no hype, no marketing fluff. Just honest, science-based, practical information that you can actually use in your daily life. Take care of yourself. Be kind to your gut. It's been working hard for you every single day of your life. Let's give it the rest and respect it deserves. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.